Hey, DeMarcos, Mr. Battle.
Good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. How you doing, sir? I'm sorry I had to take so long. I'm in the middle of a Zoom, so I'm just gonna turn the volume down here. They're talking about refugee immigrants, so I'll turn it down, and then we could do the interview. I'm ready when you're ready, sir.
Okay. No, I definitely appreciate it. Even let me get on the phone with you again. Appreciate your time.
No problem, DeMarco. Anything to help you out, sir?
Thank you. I did have a question before we started. Would you mind if I recorded the interview for
No.
Miss Stancliffe's class?
Yeah, that's not a problem. That's fine.
Okay. Thank you.
No
All
problem.
right. So I have three sets of questions. The first set is going to be like about the kids and about the juveniles there.
Okay.
The second set is going to be more about like work life. And then
Okay.
the third set will be more personal opinion type questions.
Got you.
So before we get into that, could you please tell us your your name and your position at Edmund L. Thomas?
All right, no problem. My full name is Gerald T. Battle II, and my position is the superintendent at the Edmund L. Thomas Center.
Okay. And could you roughly tell us what goes on there?
Absolutely. We have two programs here at the center. One is our shelter program, and this is for children who have been abused and neglected. They really don't have a family home structure, so they're really temporarily homeless. So we put them in our shelter till we can find a maybe suitable placement for them, such as a foster home, adoptive home, preferably a relative's home. But if we can't find anything for that child on those rounds, we'll go ahead and try to find RTFs, which stand for Residential Treatment Facility, which is like a facility that houses youth for maybe 6 to 9 months or even maybe a year. But they'll live there, they'll go to school there, and they'll get their counseling from that residential treatment facility. Our other program is our detention program. We call it secure detention because it is a lockdown facility, which means all the doors are locked to get inside the building. We do lock their rooms at nighttime so they can't wander around the program. And our detention kids here, our max capacity is 20. I don't know if I mentioned it, DeMarco, but the max capacity in the shelter is 8. So our detention kids here goes to 20, and these kids are here for criminal allegations. They have allegations of crime against them, such as I've had murderers here, I've had drug possession, strong arm robbery, car theft. We get all whole scope of different crimes here. Our kids in both programs are slated to stay here 20 to 30 days. That's normally how long it takes for them to go through their court process, which means they have to have their hearings, which are 3 hearings. One is a detention hearing, which says that youth can be detained here, like it's not the wrong youth. We don't have a sibling versus the kid who's supposed to be here. Then the second hearing occurs within 2 weeks of that. That first hearing occurs within 72 hours. Then the second hearing occurs within 10 days to state if the child is guilty or not, guilty or innocent. And then they get to, present evidence on their behalf if they're saying they're guilty. If they're saying they're innocent. The third hearing happens 2 weeks after that, which is really your disposition hearing. And the disposition means where do they go? All right, now we know that they've been found guilty. Where are we going to send them? They can go to Danville, which is a secure prison. It's like a juvenile prison. It's in Danville, PA, in the middle of the state. They can go to Abraxas boot camps. They can go to Harbor Creek Youth Services. They can go to Perseus House. They can go to George Jr. There's a myriad of services they can go to from there. But that pretty much defines it. Our staff total here is 28 staff, and we work across all shifts, first, second, and third. And we use both staff in both programs whenever we need to.
Okay, so there's a lot of intersection as far as working in both of the programs.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, like DeMarco, if you're in shelter, if you're working shelter and maybe we got a fight in detention, we're going to ask staff to come down and help. Help means either help separate the kids, get the two kids who were fighting put in their rooms, or watch the rest of the group. That's when things go kind of awry. If you're watching, if a fight happens, sometimes my 27 years of being here, I've seen kids set up decoys where they say, "Hey, y'all two go ahead and fight," and when staff come, we're going, try to jump them from behind and take their keys. We've had that happen a few occasions. But, when we have a close interaction with the kids, they really don't act like that because they all want to go home, and they know this is like their last chance to go home. So that goes in our favor as far as getting good behavior to be displayed on a daily basis.
Okay. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
When you're looking at the kids that are coming into the different programs, what would you say is the most common obstacles that the adolescents face that increase their chances of becoming a juvenile offender or ending up in the temporary placement program?
It's a great question, DeMarco. I think, in my opinion, professional opinion, I think it's really socioeconomic status. A lot of our kids are coming from poor backgrounds. They just don't have money. I don't know if you know this, but Erie, Pennsylvania has the highest poverty rate for children in the nation. There's a lot of kids that just don't have their basic needs being met. I would say what comes in a close second next to their economic status would be drug involvement with parents and themselves. A lot of the kids, when they do drugs themselves, most of them are smoking weed. That's mainly to mask the pain they're feeling. Some of them have a lot of mental health issues, paranoia, schizophrenia, bipolar, and their parents have dropped the ball on getting them assessed and getting them therapy and getting them evaluated for medication. So they just go out and get high, stay drunk, and hope that the problem goes away. But you and I know it don't never go away. When you're done being high and drunk, the problem's still there. You're still poor. You still live on wherever you live at. If you live in the housing projects, whatever, still around violence. Nothing changes. So I think it's being poor and the drugs. I think those are the biggest factors. And I hate to say it, I'm going to put a third one in there, DeMarco, but I would say lack of support, like community support. Basically, there's nothing for kids to do. I mean, think about when you were young. I mean, you went to Mercer Prep. You probably had dances there to go to, but what else could you do? Was there dances at the Y? Was there dances at the Boys and Girls Club? Even the community centers, the King Center, Booker T, JFK, back in the 80s and 90s, they used to have block parties and dances. That stopped because of all the violence. You got a lot of kids shooting other kids from other neighborhoods, and now you can't have nothing for the good kids who didn't do anything wrong, who still want to have a social life. So I think there's not a lot for kids to do. You got to remember we live in Erie, so 4 feet of snow, 3 feet of snow. You can't really just hang outside. It's too cold. So you need things for kids to do. And one thing I learned, man, in my career here is, idle time is a devil workshop. If there ain't nothing for kids to do, they're gonna find something to do, but it's probably gonna be negative. And then they end up, unfortunately, coming my way.
Okay. And earlier you had touched on there's a lot of mental health problems such as anxiety, depression, schizophrenia, stuff like that, and then that mixed with substance abuse.
Yeah.
Is there a big emphasis placed on maintaining or giving these kids tools to build up their own mental health?
Absolutely. What we do is we have a transition coordinator here at DeMarco, and she's in charge of making sure our kids know what's available in the community. Like, some kids don't know, DeMarco, there's a tutoring program at the Booker T. Washington Center. You can go down there if you have problems with your math or algebra, or I should send Trey down there because he keeps struggling with chemistry. But you can go down there and get tutored. they have college students from Mercer University that volunteer down there but our kids don't know that.
Yeah, nah, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, a lot of kids don't know that. So we try to we give them all those resources. Like, hey, they got job training programs at the King Center. They got tutoring programs at the Booker T. There might be a basketball league or a flag football league at the King Center, JFK. So we got to let them know where these extracurricular activities are, these positive activities. So we try to let them know you can go here. And we do give them outpatient to Safe Harbor, who does mental health evaluations. Their POs actually cover a lot of the mental health stuff as far as getting them connected and getting them treated. But we give them what we know as well. You want to double up with the resources. It's better to have more than not needed than needed and not have it. So we try to make sure we give them a lot of that. But unfortunately, the schools are supposed to take a big part in that, because if a kid is going through mental health issues, it's going to show itself in school. I'm a public school kid, and when I came out of public school out of McKeesport in Pittsburgh, I didn't know anything when I got to Mercyhurst. And it was like an eye-opener. Like, I really didn't even know how to write an essay, bro. Like, I didn't know you had to write a thesis statement and talk about that and have an intro, body, conclusion.
Yeah.
I was never taught those things. I never read Shakespeare. I never knew none of that. So I had to kind of start all over, and I think that's that public school. Teachers there are tired. They're done. They just want to get through the day and get to summer. They really don't put the work in. Now, private school teachers, they don't get paid nothing. So for them, they're teaching because they want to. They really want to teach. And that's why a lot of parents, if they can afford it, they should be, trying to go into those preparatory schools to get them prepared for college. But, I think the schools dropped the ball on our mental health stuff. But there's not a lot out there as far as kids on their own trying to find it, because when you talk about mental health services, it has to do with money, of course. So there's insurance issues, and you have to have signatures of your parents. And I hate to say it, but the kids that come here, their parents are not involved. They don't even see their parents. I got to teach kids how to say good morning in the mornings. And Mr. Battle, why you always say good morning? Ain't nobody taught you to say good morning, sir? Like, you got to say good morning to people when they speak to you. It's these little things, these little nuances that they need to know. So if they're trying to be a productive citizen, get a job, be a regular person, like, you got to know how to speak to people. I learned a lot at Mercyhurst because I come from a black city, a black high school, and now I'm in a white school where everybody's looking at me, and I always felt like they thought I was dumb because I was a good hooper. I'm 6'6", he's an athlete, so he can't be smart. Now, you went to school with guys, that was on that football team, basketball team that were very smart. But staying on topic, bro, there's not a lot out there for mental health in the community. It has to be set up through probation officers, teachers, and guidance counselors.
Okay. And you talk about you play a large part in connecting them to those resources, and how a lot of those resources are buried within the different school systems, and about the different nuances and opportunities that's available in different school systems. So when we go back to the socioeconomic problem of where do these kids get their troubles from, there's, like you said, we're in Erie. It's one of the poorest zip codes in the nation. Along with these mental health problems and these substance abuse problems, they don't have anything to do. Now, if you're at a higher class school, a private school, you're going to have more opportunities for things such as sports or extracurriculars, music, any type of arts. So do you think when kids are exposed to things such as sports, it can have a therapeutic effect or just benefit them?
Oh, absolutely, DeMarco. You're so, you're profound in your statement. Let me applaud you on that, sir. I tell you this, I believe when you're exposed to different experiences, it makes you more curious about other experiences. And what I mean by saying that, so if you have an Erie kid who's never left Erie, like I'll give you an example. My Erie Ice travel basketball team. I've had kids from the Lower East Side who never even went to the West Side. So now they get on my basketball team. They're rich kids. We have an identity. Now we're going to Buffalo. We're going to Pittsburgh. They're going to Cleveland. They're staying in hotels. We're eating at nice restaurants. We do sightseeing. One time we went to New Jersey, DeMarco, for a tournament, and we went to the mall, and we ran into Shaquille O'Neal, and he took pictures with us, and he signed autographs. That's an experience, bro, that most kids don't get to have that. They don't know what it's like to go in a hotel and go swimming in the pool and eat with your teammates, and everybody's eating together, and we're eating good food, no hot and readies, no McDoubles, none of that crap. I think the experiences make them want to have more experiences. So I think when you have different experiences, it makes you curious, and it makes you want to see if I can do more things. That little short trip to Buffalo might mean nothing to somebody that's been traveling a long time, but that might also spark that kid to say, I want to go to Egypt. I want to go to Spain. I want to go to France and see the world. And that's what I try to do. I think the experiences, because what do you know if you've always lived in the hood? Like you're getting the same experience, exposure to violence, exposure to drugs, exposure to being poor. Everybody around you is living like that. So now it's a dog eat dog. Everybody want to take what somebody else might have. You're not learning nothing. You're not being refreshed. You're not being curious or inquisitive. I think those are very important when you're talking about going through life, because if you want to go to college like yourself, you got to have something inside of you to say, I'm curious about college. Like, what is it? I tell Trey all the time, DeMarco, college is the best time of my life, bro. Like, I was the man. I was a 3-year captain. I was All-American. I had a lot of girls that liked me. That was easy. I was popular. I was the first black homecoming king at Mercier's. Back then it was Mercier's College. So for me, it was like a whole new life, bro. Like, my eyes were opened up to different stuff. And when I first got there as a freshman, I cried every night, called my grandma, I hate this, and a number of white people up here, they don't like us at their parties. The girls ain't trying to give us no game. It was crazy. So she said, if you transfer, what do you think to accomplish from that? And I was like, I don't know, Grandma, I just want to be happy. And she's like, yeah, but you want to learn how to interact with white people, because that's probably going to be the person that hires you in your first job. That's probably going to be the person that promotes you. So you got to learn how to speak their language, get your slang out, don't curse, look them in the eyes, shake hands, all that good stuff, all that etiquette, if you will. So I understood what she was saying, but yeah, it's definitely experiences, man. We have to have that for these kids, even kids that make mistakes, and that's what I hate too, DeMarco, because some people is like, why do you feed them calamari? It's like they committed crimes. So what? They made a mistake. That don't mean they deserve to eat. These are kids. Now adults, a little different. I understand that. You should know better. I tell our kids all the time, first 17 years of their life, you can blame your parents. But when you turn 18, that's done. Everything that happens to you from 18 on is your fault. It's your fault or your blessing, however you want to do it. But it's not going to be on your parents because you're a grown-up now. I love telling Trey that shit. He gets mad. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot we recorded.
Hey,
edit that out. Don't let nobody hear that.
That want to get going. It's all right.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. What else you got, DeMarco?
Well, it was really profound what you said about these kids, and it's important to understand where they come from, especially in the Erie area. There is a lot of seclusion, according to Lower East Side versus Upper East Side versus the West Side. It's a lot of seclusion, a lot of combative behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And when we talked about that lack of perspective, it closes people off. They don't know there's opportunities in front of them.
Right.
And a lot of the time, something as small as being on a sports team, like you said, the AAU, traveling basketball, taking a trip to Buffalo, or taking a trip to a college campus, or interacting with people that you don't normally interact with on a college campus. It opens people's heads up to new experiences, and it makes them want to do good. It gives them motivation.
That's right.
So when we talk about understanding, opening that mind up, and being open to new experiences, I think we got to look at the flip side and see how people are closed-minded towards these kids, and they don't give them that chance to change their perspective. So my next question would be, when we're talking about the impacts of the younger generation, do you believe that the youth are more harshly discriminated based on their race or based on their financial standing?
That's a tough question. I would feel that race has never, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, I don't think race has really progressed like people think it has. I'm taking you back to like Jim Crow laws. I mean, back then they were calling us niggers and then shooting us and killing us. And in 2021, they're not calling us niggers, but they're still shooting us and killing us. So have things got better? It don't feel like it. You know, I remember when Rodney King, I was a student at Mercer University, when Rodney King got beat and we had to deal with that verdict. It was like the first time anybody ever seen it, but that don't mean it hasn't been happening. I'm sure in the back roads of Tennessee and Kentucky and Arkansas, that, like, it's common for blacks to be beaten, murdered, falsely accused, because it's all systemic. It's been ingrained in American society to make sure the haves keep on having and the have-nots stay down, because that's how you can guarantee power. If you look at generational wealth with whites versus blacks, well, the whites had a 400-year head start on us. They used blacks to build the railroads, our schools, our cities, our communities. They used them in the cotton fields. This is all free labor. You know, whites were able to amass a lot of wealth, so they would pass on wealth to wealth. I heard I think it's Chris Rock. He made a joke, and he said, "Yeah, you know, how come Shaq lives in a neighborhood, and in his neighborhood, a dentist lives next door to him? How can that be?" And everybody's like, "Well, Shaq is wealthy." No, Shaq is rich. The dentist is wealthy. The person that writes Shaq's checks is wealthy. They're wealthy, not Shaq. So when you look at it like that, it kind of puts things in perspective when you're talking about race. It's not funny, but it's very like eye-catching that in the whole Erie County, I can name you about 10 different departments. The prison system, adult probation, juvenile probation, domestic relations, office of children and youth, drug and alcohol, blah, 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 blah. And out of all those departments, you mean to tell me I'm the only African-American department head out of 15 departments in Erie County? So I don't know if you remember, DeMarco, there was an article that was in the paper that talked about how it is to feel black in Erie. Like there was a perspective article on that. And I feel the same way. I just feel like people talk and people go out and they shake their signs and they protest, but there's no real change occurring. At Manel, we got the most minorities out of whole Erie County. And I think it's because people feel comfortable here because they know at least one thing, race ain't going to be an issue. If you're a minority and the boss is a minority, then the race is kind of gone now. Now you can't say, well, he making me work because I'm black. Well, he black, so that can't be it. His two assistant directors are black, Kenny Hollis, Julian Blanks.
So it helps to change the kids' perspective again and open them up to more opportunities.
You beating me
better
to it,
themselves.
DeMarco. You beating me to it because
Hey,
it's also modeling. Because now they see somebody, they see me come in with my tie and my glasses and my dress shoes and my dress pants, and they say, "Damn, that's somebody that looks like me." Now let's forward a little bit. Now after talking with Mr. Battle, he is from the projects. He did come from drug addicted parents. Wow, he's really like me. So now they trust my guidance. Now when I tell them, yo, you can't smoke, you can't drink, yo, that's not good for you right now. When you get grown, do what you want. I know judges that do things that maybe they shouldn't do. But right now, when you're trying to aspire to accomplish something, some type of status and success, you can't do that. You can't fight. You can't be violent. You can't walk around with guns. It's a setup. You know, once you get into the prison system, DeMarco, you already know this, it's so easy to get in and it's so hard to get away from it. Like 10 years from now, you could get out of prison and guess what? You're going to struggle to get a job. And if you do get a job, you're cleaning hotels, you're working at McDonald's, it's not going to be enough to sustain a family on that income. So a lot of people go back to hustling again, and then they go right back to jail again. So here's that cycle. Here's that vicious cycle again. And now your kids see, not yours, someone's kids will see their parents doing wrong shit, and then what are you doing? You're modeling that. So now the kid says, well, Dad was hustling, so I might as well hustle. That's what we do. But you know, it's just I like to show the kids, and they know when I speak firmly with them, you know, they know like, oh yeah, he ain't like corny like I think. His glasses and he uses big words, and I let them know like, look, I could talk proper because Mercer has taught me that, but the hood can come out too. But I also know it's not good for the hood to come out. That's why I got away from it. Because I didn't like living in the hood. I didn't want my kids being raised in the hood. Can you believe my son never fought before? He's almost fought on the court, but he ain't never had a real fight. You know, and I gotta let Trey know sometimes because he think he, you know, oh Dad, you know, I rep Pittsburgh. No, you don't. Boy, you from the driveway. You ain't from the street. You went to Mercer's Prep. Stop. But he understands that because he's been home with me many times. He's seen walking around with guns like it ain't nothing. It's like the Wild Wild West down there. Like people really just walk around with guns.
Yeah, it's different sides.
It's a different life down there in Pittsburgh. You know, and he got to learn that. But yeah, man, that's what I try to. The race and the economic status, I don't think is really apparent because think about it. Everybody we know that's poor, everybody I know, I'm not going to speak for you, D, but everybody I know that's poor, they look like they're rich. They got Jordans. They got gold bracelets. They got chains on. Most poor people keep a lot of money on them. You know, that I've seen that image. How many times you seen this, bro? A Benz or a Beamer parked in the terrace. Parked on 17th Street.
The Porsches.
Yeah, I mean, come on, man. Like, you got nice cars, but you live in the hood. Like, wouldn't you rather have a nice house and an okay car, like a Chevy or a Ford, but you live in Glenwood, like you live above 38th Street, 26th Street? Like, I don't understand that. And I also understand that when you have that nice vehicle and you live in the Holly, that you're telling every law enforcement agency to look at you. How the hell does that person have that car and paying $25 a month for rent? That don't match.
Okay, I want to stop you right there too.
Yeah. Okay.
You made a real important point throughout this answering this question. You said like being broke, being financially unstable, and being caught in a cycle of looking a certain way, looking like you have money, riding around in expensive cars, and it goes back to talking about how people are caught in this cycle, especially in the minority community. We talk about the cycle. You said originally people smoking with their parents.
Yeah.
They see people walking around with guns. They see people openly doing drugs like it's legal. and it becomes habit, and it closes off the perspective. So that's what a lot of these kids are coming from, and that's what how they know how to express themselves.
Yeah.
So like you said, when it comes to modeling that,
yes,
being a model, I think it was very important that the kids understood it wasn't always like that. You didn't come out clean cut. You didn't come
right.
out speaking proper, intelligent communication skills, empathy skills, social skills, things like that. So I want to make a shift less from the kid's perspective and now more towards a worker's perspective.
Okay.
And when you're talking about that change and that modeling, can you explain over the years some of the qualities that you had to learn to adopt as a worker to adapt to your environment?
Oh, that's a great question, DeMarco. And what I have used first and foremost, bro, is compassion. You have to have compassion. The days of what's wrong with that kid has gone away, and now it's what happened to that kid. That's called being trauma-informed. And we are a trauma-informed facility. Actually, we're a trauma-informed county, which means when you're trauma-informed, you are trying to find out what traumatized the youth. So we got to use trauma screening tools, questionnaires that tell us, did this child experience trauma? All right, once we find it out, now we have to set them up with resources to address the trauma, such as psychiatrists, such as therapists, some intensive counseling, okay? And then finally you have to have supports for the trauma. I always make this analogy. There's a great book. Had to grab it real quick. It's called On Playing a Poor Hand Well. Get that book if you get time, sir. It's by Dr. Mark Katz. Katz spelled K-A-T-Z. And this book is about resiliency, sir. This book talks about how come some kids from the hood make it and other kids don't. What is the difference? Why is there resilience on the child that makes it and another child comes from the same environment, similar backgrounds and family, don't make it? And what the book discusses is, I'm going to give you an analogy for this. The analogy is like you have a stadium for every child. In the stadium is their supports, all right? In some people's stadium, I'm going to use you for an example. I don't even know you. I'm just going to guess. I bet you in your stands you probably have family, parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins that supported DeMarco. We're very proud of you. You're making the family proud. Now you're going to college. You're making us even more prouder. You're just doing everything you need to do. That's support. You might have a coach. I don't know if you play sports, but you probably had some coaches if you play sports. If you don't have that, you had some teachers that were supporting you, or you had pastors or priests, neighbors. If you were a Boy Scout leader, if you were in the Boys and Girls Club, if you went to YMCA, if you were in leadership programs within the community centers, all these are supports. And the more people you got in your stadium, the more chance you got of beating adversity and poverty and dysfunction. That's what that book talks about, resilience. Because I asked this to myself a lot of times, DeMarco, like, how did I make it out? Well, I had a grandma. I had a grandma who put me in Sunday school. She kept me in the church. Now, I'm not no holy roller. I don't go to church now. But I talk to God 3 times a day, every meal, twice a day when I wake up and when I go to sleep, because I learned that if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't even be here. I know that for a fact. There's been things that happened to me that I can't explain. So for me, it's like I do understand there is a higher being, a higher superior, and he is the master architect. And he puts people in people's lives for a reason. There's a reason that you were on that call when I did that Zoom. There's a reason why we're doing this interview. We might not know for years yet, but there's definitely a reason. So,
I definitely believe so.
Yeah, I definitely believe that, man. And I just look at, as far as our kids being, I guess, motivated and influenced, You have to show them something different. They're used to seeing bad. I'm sorry. I'm gonna get back to your question about compassion. As far as a worker, you have to have compassion. You have to have empathy. You have to have a blind, optimistic view. What I mean by that, D, is you might have a child say, "Hey, Mr. DeMarco, I want to be a rocket scientist," and that child can't read past the fourth grade level when he's 17. You're not going to say, "Hey, man, you ain't going to be able to do that shit. You need to do something else." I mean, you could, but that'd be very mean. That wouldn't be something that would benefit the child. So what I would do would just spin it. You want to be a rocket scientist? Wow, that's interesting. Wow, how long does it take to be a rocket scientist? How long would you have to go to school? How about me? You do some research on that. Let's research that. Do you like math and science? No, I don't like math and science. Oh, okay, well, now I think rocket science, you got to like science and math. Now, you're going to laugh, but our kids are like that. They just don't know. And they're too scared to ask their teachers for clarification because they're embarrassed. And you know when you care, well, you don't know because you went to Mercer's Prep. But most kids that go to those public schools, when you ask or take a interest in your educational growth, you get teased by your peers. Oh, you trying to brown nose, DeMarco. Look at you, man, kissing the teacher's ass. You just a teacher's pet. They don't understand. You might be their boss one day. And it starts now. It starts in high school with your thought process and being open to new experiences. But I think here you got to care about kids. You got to have compassion, and you got to believe that their life will change with your help. That's all. Other than that, it's like really hanging out with your family members. It's like talking to a bunch of nieces and nephews or cousins. And it's like, yeah, I'm sure you got cousins. And they say, hey, DeMarco, how was Mercer's Prep? I bet you that was hard. Yeah, it was hard, but I learned how to study. And it helped me when I got to college. I wasn't behind. I was actually ahead. I know you're ahead when you come out of Mercer's Prep because it's so damn hard. It's so damn hard. My doctor, bro, I just got a new doctor, Neugenbauer. She graduated from Mercer's Prep and Mercer's University. She was at Mercer's Prep when they won the back-to-back girls state championships with Mashea Williams and Erin Kerner and Chelsea Gordon back in the day. So, but that makes me proud. It's like you're a doctor, and you come out of Mercer's Prep. So I like that, man. But that's what you need to be a caring juvenile counselor here. It's just be interested in kids, man. Like helping kids for no reason. And it's easy. Like when I get out of work, I feel like I didn't go to work, bro. Like you
said, you feel like you hanging out with your family.
That's it. And why? I'm not. Somebody asked me yesterday in my Zoom. I did a Zoom with Mercier's with Dr. Kirchner yesterday. Did 2 classes. And she said, one of the kids was like, well, how come you didn't go back to McKeesport and help those kids? That's where you're from. I was like, because the opportunities were better here. And what does it matter what zip code the kid is from? Like, it's a kid. That's the way I look at it. I want to help Erie kids just like I want to help McKeesport kids. I mean, why should I just say I ain't helping no kids because I ain't helping McKeesport? Nah, that's not right. So
like
and our
kids
kids,
help somebody if they from the middle of the boondocks. Like it's all the same. It's a kid.
Well, it rotates around, DeMarco. Our discussions that you're having with me, you're gonna probably be interested in helping some youth because you sound like a person who is aware. You're woke. You're not asleep. You know what's going on in our community right now. You know how unfair it is for our people right now. So it's like, what do you do about it? You just shout about it, emails, and write some signs? Or can you get out here and maybe make a difference in one kid's life? And that kid can call Mr. DeMarco back and say, hey, Mr. DeMarco, I don't know if you remember me, sir, but you changed my life. I talked to you, and you told me about college, and you told me how fun it was, and I went to college. And now I've never been back in the prison system. I've had those conversations, DeMarco. That's what keeps me moving.
Nah,
what else you got, sir? I know. I'm going off.
We got a little off track. But so you talked about in order to do this job well, you had to learn to be compassionate and caring.
Yes.
So that's something that's really valued in a worker in this type of environment. Now, when you go about doing that, is it hard to prioritize your workload? Like from day to day, does it tend to be each day is different, or are most of them pretty consistent?
You know what, DeMarco, that's a fair question in regards to, I would say most days are different. But, it's exciting too. Like, I always look forward when I was an intern here. I was always looking forward to coming to work, do my internship, and I kept that same mindset through being a full-time worker as well. And some days you're going to come in and it's like, yeah, I would like to counsel, but I know these two kids might want to fight. So yeah, I'm gonna prioritize safety over, therapy. If
Okay.
nobody's safe, then you can't, really counsel.
Okay.
Kids won't listen to you. So safety comes first here. You want to make sure no kids are trying to hurt themselves. They do that a lot. Like they come in, they think the world is over because they made a mistake.
Yeah.
And they might try to split their wrist. They might try to hang themselves. They might bang their head off the concrete wall. We have to intervene as counselors when a child is trying to hurt themselves or somebody else. We have to go hands-on and stop that child. So when you talk about some days, some days are like right now, this past week has been nice. We got 5 kids in detention with 4 staff. So imagine how much counseling you can do. Now you can pull a kid away because everybody's kind of bored, and it's like, hey, let's go talk in here about goals, man. Let's talk about how'd you get here and how you going to not come back here when you leave, and just have the conversation because our kids don't get a chance to have that at home.
Yeah.
I've heard the kids always told me, Mr. Ballard, you talk to me more than my parents, and that's sad because you gotta. Trey, he knows I'm a tough coach. All of his ICE teammates and everybody's like, yo, your dad is fucking tough. I don't even know how you live with him. But we have a lot of conversation. That's my number one son. Like, I love him to death. We eat together. I do all the stuff that I didn't get to do as a kid.
And there's a time and a place for it. It's different
right.
situations warrant different types of personality, releasing certain things into the environment.
And I read somewhere they said the more time that's spent with family, the less time your child will be involved in delinquent activities. So it's very important to have that time with family.
All right. And you talked about when prioritizing the workload, safety is always number one. That's paramount. Yes. So are there any, major rules that are extremely important to follow as far as being a worker in order to keep the staff and the juveniles safe?
Oh, yeah, there's tons of those. Most is going to be supervision. You got to watch the kids. You got to know where the kids are. You can't have a kid say, hey, Mr. DeMarco, can I get a book from the bookshelf? You can say, yeah, but you better make sure he really got a book. You got to make sure there ain't nothing hidden in that book. Sometimes kids might hide a staple or a paper clip because they can't keep it on their person because they don't have no pockets. They can't keep it in their rooms because we do room searches twice a day. So they would hide it in the program. So you always have to, be suspicious of activities. We have a bunch of rules here, but one of them is no whispering. They can't whisper. They can't rap or sing because that can be used as a decoy. I heard you say earlier, music is an outlet, and it is, but just not here, not in our secure program. In shelter, it is. We have a radio, and they can listen, different music, try to, calm them down a little bit. Here, just because if I give them a radio, they might take the radio and smash the dude's head in from the west side that they had problems with before they got here. So you got to be careful with those type of situations. But safety got to be first, man, here, first and paramount. But you're going to maintain supervision. You can't be distracted. A problem with our staff, they always have their cell phones. And if, we have a policy that says you can't have cell phones, not when you're working. If you need somebody to reach you, your parents for an emergency, they should call here at work because it's easier for you to answer the phone and still be in the program. Whereas if you got your cell phone, that's something that could be lost. It could fall out your pocket. Now the kids got it. Now we got a problem. You could not get signals down there because we're enclosed with concrete brick. So you're not going to get good signals anyway, so you'll miss their phone calls. But phones are horrible because when you're looking at your phone, you know what you're not looking at? You're not looking at a child. And that child could be touching another girl, trying to fondle her. And our job is so hard, DeMarco, because if God forbid, bro, but if a mistake was to happen and the kid, like, died here, they're going to see what all the staff were doing. And then the staff are going to be lucky just to lose their job because we work for Office of Children and Youth. So they'll say, you lost your job, but guess what, Mr. Battle? Now we're going to charge you with criminal negligence, which means I can go to prison because I didn't watch the kids. So when you come to work, first thing got to be, I'm watching these kids. I'm not going to stand in the wall and watch them play spades. I'm going to play spades with them. You know what I mean? Because now you can build rapport, you know, while you're playing cards. Like, that's a good activity. But, yeah, the phones, just being distracted, supervision, those are the major things that they can impact staff and residents not being safe. Routine is huge. Follow the same routine. Follow the same schedule. Treat everybody the same. You can't say, I'm going to take little Trey here, and we're going to go in the back, and I'm going to let him hear this new Lil Durk song. Are you going to let everybody listen to that? Because if not, then it looks like you're grooming Trey to molest them, or you're just being discriminatory to the other kids. Other kids might say, Mr. DeMarco, you ain't come get me. Is it because I ain't go to Mercer's Prep? Is it because I'm white? Is it because I'm tall? I'm short, fat, skinny? Like, you got to treat everybody the same. So that's important, too, here.
Okay, I got you. That makes a lot of sense, too. You can't give any one person too much individual attention. Now,
DeMarco, I'm going to interrupt real quick. Sometimes you have to. It's weird because I give you these blanket things, but then sometimes in social work and psychology and sociology, we have a phrase that we always say, it depends. I can't just give you a blanket statement because if I told you, DeMarco, we can't give everybody individualized attention. Yeah, we do. I got an autistic kid now. I got an autistic kid. He's 17. He's strong as shit. We got to give him individualized attention because he needs it. He needs more instruction and guidance than the other kids. Their intellectual ability don't require them to need extra guidance and supervision, but his does. So it's weird when I say we got to treat everybody the same, but some instances we're not going to treat everybody the same.
Okay. That makes sense too.
Okay.
That does make sense. We did talk about how nowadays it's trending more towards a rehabilitation stance when it comes to juvenile justice rather than just a punishment. But I know your facility is special in a couple ways compared to other local facilities. Could you explain how security-wise, I know they're always there's locked doors, but I know there's a couple other things that are in place that make your facility more secure than others.
Yeah. What we do is here you're going to have radios to communicate for all staff to have radios. I don't know if Perseus House, Harbor Creek, all those other facilities have that, but we do have that. Back in the day, bro, before I became superintendent, we used to have to yell. So I'm yelling, "Hey, DeMarco's coming upstairs!" Now that we got lucky because what if a kid was choking me? I can't even call for help because I don't have a radio. And if you're getting choked, your voice ain't gonna be too loud. So we had to make sure that we address those safety needs, and we do have monthly safety meetings, and we have quarterly staff meetings. And the safety meetings is to assess all safety issues at the program. At the center in both programs. So we might look at, we need another camera. We got a blind spot here, so we need to have another camera there. Mr. Battle, some of our handcuffs are getting rusty. We need more handcuffs, shackles. Radios are not keeping connections, whatever. So we just assess the safety issues, and that helps us with maintaining safety and keeping everybody safe here. But radios, cameras, regular meetings, open door policy with administration. We have our policy book downstairs where staff can always refer to if they're not sure what to do. We have step-by-step on what to do. I think in trainings, and we do a lot of trainings here. Like when we hire new staff, we don't just hire you and be like, good luck, go out there and do it. We're going to train you on suicide prevention, mental health disorders, trauma. You'll get all that training before you even hit the floor. You'll learn SCM, how to do proper restraints, de-escalations. We have the lowest restraints in the state of Pennsylvania. I can't even remember the last time we had a restraint here. Now go to Percy's house and ask them that, and ask Harbor Creek Youth Services that. They're probably going to say something like 15 to 20 restraints a week. The more restraints you have, the more probability that a child can get hurt and the staff can get hurt, and we don't want nobody getting hurt. So, kid could cuss me out 1,000 times, bro. F you, I'm going to beat your punk-ass son up when I see him. And I'm like, yep, I hear you, man. Could you please go to your room? Could you just please listen? No, y'all going to have to take me. No, I don't want to take you. I don't want to touch you, sir. I want you to walk on your own because it's going to help you out. If I got to put my hands on you, you try to hit me, that could be more charges. All right, that could hurt you with going home. Like you really might go away for the summer. So, I try to really counsel them. I take their audience away. We remove the group, their peers away. Because, sometimes people put the chest out because they're embarrassed.
That'll fuel up a lot of people.
Yeah. No. So I know that. So I hit them up. I'm like, look, man, now everybody gone. It's just me and you. You can save face. Ain't nobody going to know that you went to your room. It's just us. And guess what? 9 out of 10 times, they go. 9 out of 10 times, they go. But, yeah, man, that's what's paramount to keeping safety here. It's consistency, training, cameras, radio, and I guess you could put cameras and radios in a category of communication efforts. But, we've been running this program here since 1973, and I'm going to knock on wood. No kids have ever killed themselves here. So that's something we're proud of, but I'm not naive enough to believe that it won't happen. I just have to make sure it don't happen because I couldn't live with that. I can't live with making sure somebody's son or daughter is safe, and I failed to do that. So we just overboard on. That's why I staff heavy. I have a lot of. That's another thing that makes us different is we have a lot of staff. So when I told you I got 5 kids and I got 4 staff. Like that's a lot. You really could get away with 2. Harbor Creek, they'll go 2 staff to 10 kids. That's dangerous. If a fight jumps off, both staff going to have to break up the fight. Who's watching the other 8 kids? Now, they could be raping each other. They could be trying to jump on your back, take your keys. Like, that's why you got staff heavy. That's why I can call from the other program and bring them down. Another thing we can use for safety measures is we can actually handcuff the kids and shackle them. Like Percy's House, Harbor Creek, Bethesda, they're not allowed to do that. We're secure, so we're allowed to do that by our regs, and we're regulated by the state. We also can lock them in their rooms. We could just push them in the room and lock them, and just watch them. Because sometimes, they're throwing punches at everybody. It's like, okay, let's just get you in the room, and you can, we'll watch you, but at least you won't be assaulting nobody. But sometimes you got to handcuff them because once they're in the rooms, they punch in the walls. And if they break their hand, now we got another problem. So sometimes you'll have to use handcuffs and shackles, but that's why, DeMarco, a lot of people work here and they never leave because it's safe. You can earn good money here. I had a worker here make over $100,000 last year. Made more than me. been there. I do got to wrap it up though, because I got another Zoom at 11:30. So.
Yeah, no, I appreciate everything that you said, your time, different perspectives, especially as a educated African American man inside the correctional system. You got a lot of valuable things to say. I think a lot of people can learn from this interview.
Oh, I appreciate you taking the time, DeMarco.